Hello students! In this video I'm going to show you how to finish up your copper pieces. This is kind of an extension from the full video on copper tooling. So in front of you there are 3 pieces of student work. In fact, all the artwork I'm going to show you in this video is from students. So these students are about done with their copper tooling. They follow the project guidelines. As you can see, these 2 have repetition, where they're repeating a shape over and over. This student actually used a hammer and the head of a screw to hammer out little star designs on his. So with these ones, I'm showing these to you so you can see what the high relief should look like on your copper tooling. It should be at least this high as these letters. Be careful when you do this though, because you can press too hard, as you can see with this one, and put holes through it. So you've got to be really careful when you do this. And it's really important that you are gradually creating the high relief and not doing it really fast. So once you're done with your copper tooling, I'm going to put it in a container with ammonia and we're going to patina it. There's different kinds of ways to patina metal, but that is what we're going to do for this project. And once it's patinaed, it will get, sometimes it's a bluer color. This looks a little more green. But once we patina it, you're going to sand down the high relief and you'll see all the mark making that you have on there. So I'm going to put these ones aside. Also, most of you are done with your clay frame. For this particular project, I had students create a clay frame that we're going to attach the metal to. You're going to be painting your frame, antiquing it with the dry brush method, which I have another video showing how to do that. So I want to just take a couple out to look out for some pitfalls for what can happen if you go too far to the edge with anything, not just letters, but any kind of design. It starts warping. So you see that this one's going to be hard to adhere to a surface because there's not too many contact points on the back. So you got to be careful with that too. So that's one example of something to watch out for, be aware of. And I showed you already the pieces that are broken through. Also, this student, here's their design. Again, you were supposed to have your design on paper and cut it out and tape it to the front. Now, their letters are really skinny. I believe they used a stencil, and some of the stencils are pretty skinny, so this is going to be a little bit challenging for them. They're going to have to make sure, there's different kinds of tools that you can use. They're going to have to use a really small tool to get into that shape. So I'll show you. Whatever you want to pop out, you've got to make sure that you're pressing down on that portion. And every time you pop something out and you're pressing down, you have to flip it over. And so I'm pressing out the positive space. I have to flip it over and press down the negative space. Now there's students that are forgetting to do this. They're just going through, popping everything out, and then you get kind of this these warped areas. So you've got to keep going back and forth. So I press down the T. So I'm going to come in here and press up to the edge slowly. So I'm starting out here and I'm coming up to the edge. And you do need to come right up to the edge. Some students are also just stopping like right here. I'm not pressing too hard at first, soft pressure, and then when you feel comfortable that you like where the metal is bending, you can go ahead and press harder. So some little sections you really have to get in there, or your design is not really going to pop the way that it needs to. And you can't forget like little sections like that. This little section right here. Okay, so that's much more defined now if you look at it. I know the glare makes it a little bit hard to see. So make sure you're doing that. We have students who have already kind of popped out their letters, and I have little rice bags and sandbags that you can use. You don't have to have one of these. You can also use there's smocks, aprons. You can There's rags you can kind of scrunch up and put under. It does not have to be one of these. These are just kind of nice to have around. So I'm using a rounded tool because this is, towards the end of the lettering for this student. So I'm going to use this rounded tool, and on top of this rice bag, I'm going to press down. Got to get down into those little sections too, because I think this was also a stencil. Okay, so now once I've done this, what do? You move the sandbag out of the way, and you have to flip it over. Same thing. I know some of you have this down already, but I would say majority of you so far do not. So see inside that Y? Excuse me. You need to come inside there and really form it out before you go any higher with the letters. The student still needs to add more design work, obviously. They've just done letters. Okay, so the student would keep doing that. This student, they actually, the way they did their name, they pushed it down. They didn't pop up the letters. So a way to make this kind of stand out a little bit more would be to come around the edge of the letter, and it can pop up and out. So if she comes up here like this, she can make this work. And then flip it over. And again, for this particular one, I'm using a rounded tool. There's other tools. There's times where you're going to want to use more of a pointed tool, especially when you start out. If you're really heavy-handed, I would not recommend using a pointed tool. You'll end up putting a hole through your copper, possibly. Okay, so I'm just outlining, excuse me, I'm just outlining the letter on a flat surface, and then I'm flipping it over. I'm going to do it on the bag, and see, it's starting to crinkle a little bit, but you can fix that when you flip it over. This is a little more challenging what this student chose to do compared to what some of the other students did. So this one's a little harder because you have to pay attention to the line work so you don't make it bend and crack. So there you go. So she will just do this with all of her letters. Alright, so that's just to help you move forward with your project. Most of us are getting to we're getting to the end of the project, so just wanted to give you a little bit of support there so that we can finish strong and have good craftsmanship. Remember, craftsmanship is attention to detail, clean lines, it's neat, and it looks finished. Thanks.